Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brimstone. I'm a Brimstone, and I'm here with Pertal. Welcome back. We've got a great matchup coming up here. This is one of those tight middle of the pack ones. This is going to be bTitans, currently sitting in seventh. They're going to be going up against Hellside, currently sitting in the eighth seed here. This should be a good one. bTitans I have here coming off of an 8-7 loss to Titanium Cloud Esports. Very tight, another middle of the pack team, kind of just reinforcing that middle of the pack. And I can't say enough how tight it is. These
Sure.
teams are very, very closely related in skill. And then you've got Hellside coming off of a 7-5 win to SMS Athena, who's actually in the fourth place team. They're kind of hovering just above that middle of the pack, but you could almost lump them in as well. I think they're 3-2, and the four middle of the pack teams are 2-3. Have you gotten a chance to look at any of the stats or anything for this, Portalis? Anything you're looking forward to?
Again, I'm basically a complete Siege noob at this point, so I'm just looking
Yeah.
forward to watching some
Yeah.
intense FPS gameplay. To be honest with you, something I would like to mention just briefly as well is that if you did enjoy that last map that we saw very soon over on the official Twitter page for our CCS W, at least for the Rainbow Six League, there is going to be an MVP vote going on. So head over there. You can vote for who you think the MVP candidate was from that matchup at CCS Esports. So check it out on that
Yeah.
Twitter page and go
Definitely.
and vote for your favorite player of the last match.
Little fun community activity that we like to do here. Especially, I mean, it gives that boost of confidence. These girls, some of them are doing this for the first time. This is kind of the first league that they've been in, and it's a lot of fun for them as well to see that feedback, to see that enthusiasm, to see that fanfare. You know, it's a good feeling, and we're putting together a good league here. And it's good that they get the recognition they deserve, even if it's as small as, hey, a little Twitter, yes or no, who's your favorite out of the four, MVP, that kind of thing. It's cool to get that feedback. What we will do here is we're going to quickly go into the lineups for the two teams for this match. This is match number 2, week 6. We're going to have bTitans featuring Dashini, Shnati, Cece, Razo, and Axarella, yeah, I believe. And then going up against Hellside Esport featuring Loudy, Shanice, Skylia, Stelenia, and Ganesh. I think this will be a really good matchup here. Both of these teams have their star players, but they also have good lineups throughout as well. I think that's what will give us the best kind of the most entertaining thing about this match is we're going to see good play top to bottom in these rosters.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was a dominant affair on the last map, to be sure, but we definitely saw evidence of high-level tactical play, right? In North Sea Gaming, very drilled on that defensive situation, so clearly they'd had a lot of preparation brought into things, and we did see a lot of flashes of individual skill from the side of Penta Divina as well. So obviously, not going to be expecting them to be completely useless into that one. Now, we do have the veto, I think, just coming up for you guys. So again, it is going to be a best of one map coming into things in this. But before we head over to the veto, we are just going to check out that schedule once again for you. So as we were saying, we've just had North Sea Gaming versus Penta Divina, bTitans versus Hellside coming up now. And later on this evening, the broadcast games on the EU side, at least, are going to be Titanium Cloud Esports versus Team Queen, and then SMS Athena versus Team Endpoint. And then, of course, don't forget, you can check out the NA broadcast after this EU one is finished.
Yeah, stick around for that. I'll be there for that as well. As well, to round off the women's league for Europe, we will have Sphinx versus Spies. That'll be off stream. You can catch that later on YouTube as well. If you're just getting not quite all the action that you're looking for out of EU here, there'll be that one last match you can go and check out. But we will go into the map bans here. Portalis, would you like to do that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll walk you through. So the first map being taken out here is going to be Bank, unfortunately for all the money lovers in chat. Cafe up next for all the food fans being taken out as well. Villa and Clubhouse, the next two to be eliminated. So that leaves us with a choice of 3, Consulate, Coast or Border. But unfortunately, no C words going on this broadcast. Border is the map that we're ending up on in this particular map. And again, a bit aesthetically different from the last one we ended up on. But nonetheless, I'm expecting to see a good matchup here.
Yeah, couple of palm trees, but still not that fun sandy beach resort feel that you're going. A little more ominous, a little more intense. That's for sure. It'll be an interesting match. So Border is definitely one of those maps that shows if you've done your rounds. There's only a few ways to play Border. Really, it's a map that's kind of been drilled out. You know, you do things how you do things. You can't really vary too much on it. So I think this will be a good tell. If one team comes decidedly out on top, it's going to show who's done their homework and who knows their plays.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see as well what's going to be going on in terms of how teams are going to be able to deal with each other, right? We saw in the last map on the offensive side of things, Penta Divina had the individual skill and were more than capable to get aggressive early on and find the picks, but ultimately it was that discipline and it looked like just hardcore practice from North Sea Gaming that allowed them to hold those late round defensive situations. Now, something potentially I'd like to see a little bit more from the attacking sides here or defending sides, if that's the side that falls down early on, is potentially some more drastic operator changes. Something that we saw with Penta Divina is they weren't afraid to rotate operators around on their attacking side of things, but it would generally rather, only ever be one operator at a time that they'd switch out and stay with a similar four to the last they used previously. So if things aren't working, you're looking at 3-0 down, 4-0 down. In my book, that's when I like seeing the radical changes, throw something completely different at the wall and see if you can get into some of these sites.
Well, I think that's what a lot of these teams in that middle pack really have to look to do is be bold, make some interesting plays, be the ones that are willing to take those risks and go out ahead because so far, when you're that close together, you've all been doing things kind of the same. You need to be the team that stands out to push ahead because right now it's a good opportunity. I believe it's the when Samsung Athena goes up against Endpoint later on in that final match,
Sure.
that's an opportunity to pull Samsung back into the mix. And this is an opportunity for Endpoint or bTitans or Hellside to really push ahead and find themselves in that fourth position.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really competitive just because, as you were saying, they're middle of the pack games, right? These are really important in that you have that extra almost survival mechanism in the back of your mind, right? In that, if you're the top two teams playing against each other, it's like you're playing for glory, sure, but the loser is going to be second in the league at this point. When you're in the middle of the pack, you're fighting for those points. It could be potential progression stages, places at stake if you lose games at this point in time. So every map going to be very important to this caliber of team. And as we head into the map, which is just going to be happening a bit later on, it's going to be clear to me, I think, that it's going to be the side that has the best mixture of passion and preparation, personally, that I think are going to be able to take this map.
Yeah. And to further your point there, we're in week 6 of week 9 here. This isn't a moment where you can, lose.
Sure.
You're middle of the pack. You can't lose a match and say, we'll get them next week. From this point on, you need to be winning. So after tonight, they'll have 3 matches. So if you include tonight, that's 4 matches, 5 gone, 4 still to go. You can't walk away with a 2-2 or else you're still middle of the pack. This is the point where you need to win tonight, then look at your last 3 matches to round out the season and say, we need to win. We can only lose basically one more match if we do want to find ourselves in the race to win it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's what esports is all about, right? It's all about winning. Yeah, and very few people, nigh on any people, remember who came second, who came third. It's all about the victory at the end of the day, and you just want that bragging rights as well as whatever else comes with it. So both of these, well, I say both of these teams, basically every player in the league going to be fighting for individual bragging rights against each other. Everybody wants to be the best, and we're just going to have to see who comes out on top. As you were saying, week 6 out of 9 now, we are entering the last stages of this in-week play. So this is where things begin to really matter. Your mistakes begin to cost more because there just aren't any opportunities at the end of the day left over for you to try and capitalize on it. So we'll just go back to the standings for you once again that we were talking through earlier. So as we were saying, Team Queen is on top of this standings list at the moment. And you were saying that they're going to want to be trying to be we want them to be pulled back into things is what the point I'm eventually trying to make there, right? Don't want anyone to run away too much. Try and pull them back in, make it more competitive. And it's just being updated after the end of that last match for you. But as well, another team to talk about getting carried away with things, North Sea Gaming, right? They just won their last map very, very convincingly. They're on a very good hot record right now, and they're looking quite hot to continue in this league.
Yeah, well, they can't rest on it, though, because the third match, the one coming up after this one, will be Team Queen versus Titanium Cloud Esports. Queen being in first, Titanium Cloud being in sixth. This kind of not a good position for TCE here because it's more than likely that they will find themselves on the bottom half of that middle of the pack after that round. Team Queen likely still looking to stay on top. I think the important thing too is with a lot of these teams, this is only 9 weeks. That's 9 matches played. This is a lot of people, new to the competitive side of things here. First time in a league, in a season. And I think obviously you're going to need good gun skill and whatnot to find success here. But a big thing too, and we've talked about this here and there, is adaptability of style of play, the decisions you make with your operators, whatnot. Because that can find you success throughout a short season where you're learning a lot here too. If you're the team that says, hey, we might not have the best gun skill, but we're adaptable, I think that's where you're gonna find these people pull themselves out of the middle here.
Well, yeah, and that's how you're going to deal with those teams that are more tactically prepared as well, right? Adaptability is just the end of the day, the situation. If you run against a team that is just hard wall defensively sticking in these sites and there's just nothing you can do to get around it, if you're not adaptable, you're not going to deal with it and you're going to lose your offensive half. We just saw a prime example of that on Coastline. Now, heading into Border more specifically, it is a different map, obviously. There are going to be different components at play. And I think the most important one of those, at least to talk about, is going to be the significance of the hard breaches, because we know Coastline, not really a map where hard breaches are so important. Borderline, though, that's not really the case.
Yeah, definitely. One important thing here to look at too is the overall scores of the teams here, just to show how close things are really. Because I mean, you can have 2-0 and 3 for all these different teams, but there might be stories to tell within there if the round matchups are different. Now, for example, the first team, which T3H, now known as Endpoint, they're 2-0 and 3, but they're 22 and 22. They have a 0 differential when it comes to round winning, which I think is, you can look at that and feel pretty good about that as well, saying, hey, we feel good about the way we're playing. We don't think that our score is maybe like we should be as even with wins as we are with losses. So we're looking at it pretty well. But then your next two teams are only -2 and -5 with Titanium Cloud Esports and bTitans, respectively. And then Hellside falling a bit behind there with the -10 in rounds as well, which still isn't a huge difference. It still just goes to show how tight that middle of the pack is round-wise, because all that takes is really one blowout, and it can make the numbers look a little bit skewed. But I think if you're bTitans right now, this is your game that you have to say, Hellside, maybe even if they win this match, they might still have a bit tougher of the rest of the season. But if you're bTitans, you might be looking at this saying, like, this might be the make or break moment for our season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's going to allow them to go 3-3 at this point, right? And that's the scoreline that's the borderline scoreline in all essence, right? Yeah, you tend to see in most qualification systems and things like that, if you have a negative win-loss record, you're not really going to be making it through. But if you're even Stevens, that's a situation where who knows what might happen in the future. A team might drop out unexpectedly, or there might be a tiebreaker situation, for example, that you're now eligible to play in because you have that advantage. So very important map for them in all things considered in this one.
Yeah, and like you were saying with map differential here, if there is a tiebreaker situation, that's going to be very important. I think a lot of these, Titanium Cloud, bTitans, and Hellside must be looking at that Endpoint SMS game later on, thinking that they probably hope Endpoint takes it, because I think that's the only thing that's going to be keeping that fourth spot still up in the air. I mean, honestly, the first and second seed with Team Queen and North Sea Gaming is all but decided, I would say. There's not much wiggle room there. Spies also 4-0 and 1 as North Sea Gaming was before they just won the match that they just did. North Sea Gaming was a +13, Spies was a +12, so very tight there. I think North Sea Gaming has had a few tougher matchups than Spies has had so far, but don't get me wrong, Spies is a great team. They've held their own. So if you're,
so
I feel
we
like
are just informing everyone on the chat. Yeah, sorry, we're a bit disjointed at the moment. That's just because there are technical issues going on Ubisoft's end at this point in time, guys. So apologies for the delay. You do have our lovely faces to keep you company at least and to speak to. But yeah, it's not an issue on our side at the moment. We are just trying to figure out these final Ubisoft server kinks before we get into things again. Sorry for interrupting you there, but just clearing things up. Sure. Yeah. So just getting the information there through as well, that it is German players being affected at the moment by those issues. So just keep that in mind as things progress later through the evening. But yeah, as you were saying, in this top three, looking like a quite competitive field, as you were saying, Spies, right, they're the only team to go 4-1 as opposed to 3-2, or 2-3 as the rest of them that I'm looking at, and again, with these teams, other teams that have flawless records, basically. So they seem to be filling that void at the moment, which is sort of in between the they're still a contender for the title, but they're in between the guaranteed best teams, which are at the moment Queen and North Sea Gaming, and the middle of the pack teams that are struggling for qualification. Right, they're finding that nice middle ground and occupying it at the moment.
Yeah, that fourth spot, really the only one I would say, aside from maybe the third. But I can really only see Spies dropping to fourth if somehow they just come out with the rest of the season as a different and worse team. I think we're going to see a 1-2-3 lineup in the order. It pretty much is now Queen, North Sea Gaming, Spies, and Samsung. If they can hold on, which they have a solid team, I think they can do it. I think this is the pivotal moment for them right now. If they beat Endpoint, if they're able to walk away with that victory, I think they will have definitely not secured, but severely boosted their chances of sticking in that fourth spot, and then trying to just keep everyone else down at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. We have got some time to work with at this point, right? So we do have time to potentially be theory crafting. So we're just getting more information coming through right now. Before we do go with that theory craft, there has been a quick substitution there. So Rebecca being brought in on the side of bTitans at the moment as a substitution. So she is going to be playing, obviously, due to the inability for CC being able to connect to these Ubisoft servers. So it is Rebecca Stranger being the full name being brought in to that roster to counter off. But it should be, other than that, the issues appear to be resolved relatively soon. And just before we get into things, let's have one quick question at the moment. So one quick fantasy question then for you, Brimstone. Mm-hmm. You've seen the teams compete in the EU section. I might be dropping this on you out of nowhere if you don't know very much about the NA section, but let's say you get the top tiers here. Do you think EU are going to be able to compete against NA?
You know what? I was actually talking to this with some friends over the past weekend. I was just attending the Canadian Nationals here in Toronto.
Sure.
And one thing I was talking to some other people that have had experience, like have been in around this league so far this season, is it's very interesting to see that in the pro league side of things, Europe seems to be the division with kind of the strongest division. They seem to have the best teams time in and time out.
Sure.
But I find it really interesting that over here in North America, and I've been a part of both sides so far, the North American teams have been very, very impressive. The one thing I will say is that maybe sometimes it's harder to get a read on it when we have this weird middle of the pack in Europe and a strong upper echelon and a very weak lower echelon.
Sure.
And in North America, it's tight throughout. And for instance, the best team in North America just actually lost to the worst team last week, which was crazy to see. But I think North America does take the edge in skill here. But it does look like we are ready for the match here finally. I'm getting a few of the R's coming out here, so it looks like we're going to be transitioning into that right now.
Sure, absolutely. And as we just head into the map, then one final question for you, Brimstone. Quick prediction. Who do you think is going to be taking it?
You know what? I think bTitans is going to be taking it. I've really liked what I've seen from them.
Despite the substitution?
That too. I mean, that's going to be... Oh, despite the substitution.
Yeah.
You know what? I've seen substitutions so far. This is a newer league and teams still sorting themselves out.
Sure.
I've seen substitutions that I'm always convinced that it's going to make it harder because you haven't practiced, whatever. But sometimes it can give that ability of mystery to the other team that hasn't seen this person play. Sure. If they come in, they're good. They could be the boost that a team needs to take the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are just heading into then, ladies and gentlemen, the operator picks and bans early on. We are going to see which operators are banned off first of all. Nomad being taken out, pretty standard one to be expected initially. And the second offensive operator, Jackal, as well. So two very standard offensive operators being taken out nice and early on here. On the defending side of things, once again, I'm probably expecting to see that mirror. Maybe if they're going for a unique ban, they might be looking at a smoke ban here. If they want to take out that late round pressure in terms of the utility, they could be looking at a Valkyrie ban if they want to take away the information late on. But I haven't been seeing any of these early pick bans that have been too crazy, so I'm expecting to see these fairly standard defensive operators be taken out early on here.
Yeah, it's the defensive ones that you see that are usually a little more standard. Your Miras, your Echoes, things like that, and a Pulse. Very interesting here.
Yeah,
Pulse can be very effective on this map though, so it's not shouldn't be maybe too much of a surprise, but definitely not the most common pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm expecting the mirror to be the final one here. Yeah, and there it is. So just her ability is just too powerful at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying it's overpowered, but when you have the ability to take somebody out and there is an operator that has such a defensive capability as Mirror does, it's a fairly obvious choice on what you want to do. So Hellside kicking things off on the offensive side of things then, and bTitans on the defense. Of course, the Titans just playing with that substitution of Rebecca, just to remind you if you're joining, as CC was unable to connect due to German Ubisoft server issues.
Mm-hmm. Now, touching on Mira there, obviously she's a very powerful operator. Does get banned, I think, the most. I think she's got the highest ban rate, if not for Echo, maybe.
Sure.
With an operator like Mira, how would you go about? Does she need? I wouldn't say she needs balancing, but if you were to change anything about her to make her more common to see because she might not be as powerful, what would you even change about a class like that?
It's such a difficult question to answer there, because it's the core premise of her operator that is what makes her so powerful. It's the vision, basically. It's the fact that you can see through a wall that you otherwise would not be able to see through, or and you can't breach through and destroy that unless you get some lucky Twitch Jones through, or you get the mirrors popping at the right time. So I mean, this is just completely wild spitballing here out of nowhere. There's no premise to suggest that this would even work. But my only idea would be that maybe they can take some really heavy damage, right? So maybe, I don't know, there's some kind of intermediary between hard breaching and soft breaching. So where maybe soft breachers, if they shoot a charge directly at her window, they can just break the window, maybe. But then I feel like that just makes her way too weak against soft breachers. So I'm not a games designer. I didn't study game design, and I don't work for Ubisoft. So thankfully, I don't have to answer that question. I just get to talk about the lovely Siege games that we have in front of us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that probably. Sorry, my apologies. That probably would have been my glass on the table. That probably would have been my go-to as well. But like you, I mean, I'm not claiming to have any sort of, I think this would work kind of. Just kind of like a fun little concept to think about, to play around with. I mean, if you're a fan of this game, I would find it, I'd find it unlikely that you wouldn't, think about different operators and, their strengths, their weaknesses, and different ways that they could act. And Mira is one of those ones that's fun to think about, and what the presence that she brings to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, as we get into this game, very huge thank you to Versarex for the 25 gifted community subs in the channel there. Obviously hugely helpful. 225 total he's reached at that point, or she rather. Whatever mystery donator that you are. Thank you very much for the support to the league, and obviously the league operators appreciate it. But early on with things, it is going to be the defenders losing a man early on, as Hellside are able to take the opening pick onto that Jaeger. Now, theoretically, those utility pieces should have been placed down from him already, so shouldn't be too much of an issue in that regard. But the early advantage going the side of the attackers this time. Theoretically, you expect them to be able to convert the round at this point, but as we saw in the last map, that might not just be the case.
Yeah, definitely. It's been interesting too to see that it's been Jaeger every single time that's gone, when he's just got, such a powerful gun.
Yeah.
Usually not the first one to go, but then again, if you're roaming, you're being a little bit, loose with it, then, that's what ultimately can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a minute left on the clock at this point. No more kills garnered yet. A little bit of damage being traded back and forth, though, as these attackers need to start thinking about making a commitment at some point. Shanice, though, finding the reply onto these defenders. 3v5 situation now in favor of Hellside as they look to be committing to these bomb sites. And Hellside right now absolutely wreaking havoc with the opening frags. Shnati, she had to try and go for something there. She does find the one on the retreat. Deals decent damage to these attackers as well, but it's going to be onto Rebecca here. Surely she's got a lot of low HP players that she needs to find. Locked out in the 3v1 here, but she's found two in the situation. One more player relatively low, but can't do so. Her opponents have the angle on her, and she is going to fall despite the valiant effort in her end of round defense there.
I'll be honest, that could have gone either way. You're looking at a situation like where it was 4-2, but 3 of the 4 were under 25 health each there, and all it would take are a few, bullets either through some soft walls or anything like that, just a few unlucky shots, and that could have been a completely different result there.
Yeah, absolutely. But thankfully, due to that play, and the heads-up team play there from the side of Hellside. They did go for those flanking angles towards the end, and they managed to isolate the 1vx situation. So great job from them. A valiant effort from bTitans, though. They did their best, right? They tried to make things work despite losing those early players. Which is obviously going to wreak havoc with your defense. But something interesting to notice is that Clash is going to be available for these defensive operators. It wasn't taken out at the start. The pulse was banned in favor. And the result is going to be very interesting to me because I've yet to see the large effectiveness of Clash in competitive siege play.
Yeah, it can be just, if you're not expecting, I think it's most valuable 6th pick, where you're just not expecting the clash.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more frustrating than rounding a corner. You think you've got a set play going, and then there's a clash, and then it's like, oh god, what? You know, it's just a really frustrating operator to play against, and you have to play it almost completely different than any other operator, and that can just throw off whatever strat you're running.
Yeah, it must be absolute nightmares for the IGLs as well, right? Imagine you expecting, okay, you know, I absolutely have my opponent's number. I know exactly what they've got into this, and I know exactly how to counter them with my attack. You see the clash, and then all of a sudden it's, you think you do, but you don't. You don't know who we've got. We're going to be able to go with that surprise repick here, which they've done so onto Rebecca as well, who is the substitution. So if preparation has been done again between these two sides, doing those VOD reviews and things like that, they're not going to be potentially as aware of the positioning that Rebecca will be playing on. But again, the counter to that, right, to counter the sort of unpredictability of a substitution, my general rule tends to be just pay attention to what positioning the player that she's subbing out is would normally play, right? So good opening kill there from Rezi to find things nice and early on the Jaeger. But yeah, just as I was saying, I'd be looking at CC's VODs personally and just be assuming Rebecca to play similar positions to that.
Yeah, what I also find interesting too is they subbed out the Echo to get the clash, and I wonder too, if they're not expecting that, you could have this whole team playing as if they're expecting to come up against those yokai drones, and they're just going to be playing completely differently. So it's almost like having the Echo without having it. If the team's going to be playing differently anyways to try to avoid yokai drones, it's almost like you had them even when you never did.
Yeah, absolutely. Shanista, falling down later on in that round, and things are really going well for the defenders. Now Schnatty as well, finding the C4 kill, 2v4 situation now, but Stelenia is going to find one in reply though, so keeping things under control relatively well at the moment. 2v3 situation, still favoring the defenders, and it's going to need some heads up play here. There goes the clash, 2v2 situation as Stelenia continues to go big, and all of a sudden these Hellside players, they're clawing their way back into this round. Very big individual performances now. That's going to leave Dashini left in the 1 versus 2 situation with the Bandit on the MP7 as well. Does have the Nitro cell available though, so potentially able to get that offensive utility kill should she need to. 1 minute left on the clock, so the time pressure with her rather than with her opponents at this point, but she's in the smoke. The barbed wire rather gets aggressive, finds the peek onto Ganesh, and leaves us in the 1 versus 1 situation. Stelenia has the info, but she just gets peeked in time now. 1 versus 1 situation with 40 odd seconds left on the clock. It's been an absolutely huge clutch from Dashini. Should she be able to pull it off? She's gone for the big rotation at this point. Has Stelenia been able to expect it there? That is the question. She's going to go for the drone play for all the information, jumping over the wire to try and narrowly avoid those sound cues and just, again, not eat up any of that time if she can. The plant going to come in now, and Dashini going to get very aggressive, looking for the plant spot, finds the head just about, but the player's up now, done defusing. She's in the position, but not able to defend against things. And Dashini, somehow, she pulls off the clutch.
Absolutely great play by Dashini there. I loved the rotate that she pulled off there. She, instead of just trying to hold down that corner where she honestly, you know, that would have been it could, you're throwing it up 50-50 at that point, whoever's going to get the first shot off, get the kill. Great rotate, played it very strategically, and it looked as though it was who was she playing against there? Sorry, my apologies. Was it Stelenia that was left
there?
I think so. Essentially didn't know where she was at all, and that ultimately gave her that edge to give her that tactical advantage to come back in and secure that round for her team.
Yeah, she's a very good job at finding that clutch there. Looked, well, initially it looked like side of bTitans would have been able to find things, right? They had the early advantages, they got the players in their favor, and then you start to see Hellside coming back into things. And it looks like they've done enough basically to secure that round for themselves, right? They leave us in the 2 versus 1 situation. And obviously, you expect it to be nigh on impossible for Shnati, but somehow she manages to do so, wins the round for her team. And if anything, if not but anything else, it's going to be a huge motivating factor for them.
Mm-hmm. I think it shows, you know, good team resilience there, being able to have a round like that where you go down, things looking a bit lopsided, but sticking together. I could only assume and hope that, you know, part of that too wasn't just Dashini finishing it off, but good comms from the rest of the team to help her out, knowing what's available, what to do, because that can be a big factor as well. Not feeling alone going into a situation like that and having that intel in your back pocket from your teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. And intel is such an important factor, especially in those clutch plays. I have interviewed players in the past, and there are these type of players that do enjoy being the last people alive, right? It's a lot of pressure on you, but if you think about at the start of rounds when the early attacks start coming in, there's so much information you're going to be getting through your headset with your other teammates going to be calling where players are. You've got sound cues for yourself that you've got to be listening to, as well as focusing on your own aim. As soon as you're the last player left alive, you have all of the information you're going to get from the rest of your team. Everything that you hear, you need to focus on. Resi, once again, doing a great job early on in the round, finding herself the opening frag for her team on that Jaeger with the powerful rifle, and hopefully going to be able to take out another drone as well. So just denying that information, and importantly, it's the IQ eliminated early, so they're going to have a hard time, or a harder time, finding these Valkyrie cameras on the attack.
Mm-hmm. I think much more important start there with not only to still have the Jaeger, but you're taking out the IQ. That's a lot of gun power remaining for the defense and loss of intel for the, or I guess not intel, but utility use for the offense. Having IQ, losing them that early within the first minute, that means there's a lot left on the board for the defensive team in getting to keep certain items, sure, as well as, you know, the offensive team not knowing where those items might be.
Well, Shanice does a very good job at finding that kill onto Resi there. She's tagged down quite low, but lands the headshot in the end. And once again, a lot of these attacking players very low. And Julie this time is the person to capitalize with the castle. They're being traded back and forth. Once again, it's a very messy round for both sides at this point. A slight advantage in favor of these defenders, just in terms of the HP, but the clash is still up and operational right now. The drone's going in and garnering as much information as they can, but a minute left on the clock now. bTitans holding true on the defense, and it's going to be up to the side of Hellside to try and figure out how they're going to approach this late round situation. What options are they going to go with? The Thatcher grenade deployed early, but no immediate hard breach to follow that up, because the castle has the diffuser in hand as well, so it wants to make sure that she doesn't fall down unnecessarily and drop that all-important factor of utility. Are they going to be able to close things out towards the latter stages of the round, though? That is the question. Smoke's popped early on, and it is going to be Hellside going in very aggressively early on. The clash still alive here with the shield to defend. That's the defender drop now, but the fire claiming another player. It's getting messier and messier right now. 2v1 situation now. Rebecca, the last left alive. She just has this shield left with just 14 seconds left to go, though. Surely they're going to be able to flank her out here and find something, and it is Shanice to close things out nonetheless. And Hellside take their second so far off the map.
Yeah, I thought it was going to have to be the Capitao there to oh, and it was, I mean, it was the Capitao to take out the flash. I would have assumed it would have been with the asphyxiation arrow, but ended up just, yeah, straight gunfire, able to do the job, looking like the Clash was trying to switch into weapons there to have a little bit of a gunfight, but the Capitao taking it. Shanice doing well there.
Yeah, talking about the Capitao, Shanice on 7 kills for herself in just 3 rounds played. Very impressive statistics on her part, at least. The attacker's going to be able to carry on this impressive run of form, though. You know, as well, we'd expect this to be a 3-0 initial start in favor of Hellside, right? But it was that very good clutch from I think Dashini. There we are. I did remember. I do have a brain. It was from Dashini that found that one round that the defenders do have. Nonetheless, they have still looked competitive. And they have been going for this 6th phase clash, as you were saying, which can be interesting when your opponents don't expect it. But we've seen it 3 rounds in a row now. Surely you are expecting the Hellside team to be aware of its positioning now and have an idea of how to counter it.
Definitely. Now, bTitans here not finding themselves in the position they necessarily want to. They're down by 1 and they're on the defense. Border, as well as one of the more closer balanced maps.
Sure.
It's not too too heavily favored in the defensive side, but maybe not to the point where you want to see yourself down 2-1 and what could have and maybe should have been down 3-0 on defense this early on. So they're really going to have to tighten things up, make sure that they're not losing their Jaeger early again, as that will provide a lot of gun power as the match goes on. And maybe a better use of their utilities. The Valk, they've got the Valk there now with the cameras, more intel, maybe hopefully better placement of the castle walls as well. But I mean, Hellside's playing this very well at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they have been looking, well, it's been looking very competitive, but Hellside have been looking like the side that are just edging things out at the moment. Obviously, in terms of the scoreline, Resi getting aggressive once again. She doesn't like going for these early on picks. That does appear to be her role within the current defensive iteration of the roster. But something I do like from the side of Hellside is that they're switching up their operator picks, despite the fact that they're winning these rounds, right? They won the last one, and they've still decided to switch out the castle for their banner. That is a very important passage of play, though. Huge double kill there from Djini. She goes absolutely massively, begins to completely dismantle this attack. And, well, as I was saying, Hellside look like they might have the advantage in this map. It's a 5 versus 2 situation, thanks to some great individual play.
Yeah, I think if they end up taking not only this round but the game, my guess is a lot of this will be Dashini to the person to be thanked for this, because she's really putting the team on her back at the moment and getting them the kills that they need when they need them.
Well, yeah, they've been getting those very important frags, as you were saying. And something that's been a bit of a telltale sign of bTitans' play right now is they go very aggressive on this defense. It's almost the complete antithesis to Naughty Gaming that we saw before. It's Djini and other players like Resi going for those early aggressive kills and finding them. And, well, Skylia, she is aware that people might be hunting her down and does find Djini on the drop. 1v3 situation, though, on the Hibana, so can hard breach into some rooms should she need to, but as soon as she does that, her position is given away. Again, the opponents have pretty much all the info they need at the minute anyway. Time is on her side, but she has got to get that diffuser. Tagged very down low, gets very confident going back for that headshot. That certainly would have been a decision I made, and nonetheless, though, Julie able to just hold that angle true, secure the kill in that situation, and tie up the scoreline 2-2.
Yeah, there were a lot of very aggressive plays by bTitans there. I mean, they did pay off that match. The run out with the 2K right at the start there. But that was Dashini that did the run out, and then later on, even that other move by Dashini, the drop down. I guess when you're up, was it four operators to 1 at that point, and there's only one person left. You know where they are. Yeah. You know that the diffuser's down. You've got eyes on that. Maybe it's less risky than it seems on the surface, but still, that was a bold move to be pulling off.
Yeah, I think she might have just been having a little bit of fun at the end of that round, to be honest. You know, you're in that 4v1 situation, right? You're virtually guaranteed to win it at that point, so why not just go and try and pad your own stats, go for the drop down. You get the meme kill, you create a nice clip-worthy moment for yourself. If you don't, no one's going to blame you for not securing it. As long as your team don't throw the round away, which they didn't, that was the important factor. And we're seeing them switch right back big time on the attacking draft of things. So the castle being taken over the Hibana once again, and the IQ electing to be taken as well instead of that sledge. So interesting amounts of variation. We are seeing the Legion come out for the defenders as well. They are going to be putting that clash away for the time being also. So it should be a much more interesting, well, I say much more interesting, it should be a much more varied type of round in this one.
Opting to go to the Echo now as well. It's funny that we talk about these different plays where Dashini dropping down, and it's easy with the hindsight to go, oh, we're sitting here going, oh, tisk tisk, that was not the smartest play. But I mean, what would we be doing sitting here if she dropped down and got that kill to win the round? We'd probably be screaming in our seats going, that was the best play that we've ever seen. That was amazing. She needs to do that every round, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the kind of plays that you love to see. But they're kind of kills that you love to see, but you don't like to see attempted, if you see what I mean. It's those kinds of things, right? You love it when they get pulled off, but when you're seeing your teammates doing it every single round, you're like, all right, maybe just go and keep your feet on the ground before you pull the trigger at this point. Because the mid-air accuracy not being that.
The flying monkey or flying lotus through the air.
Going for the Apache attack helicopter there, or Apache warrior as well. You know, both similar offensive strategies that they were using to try and hold down that site there.
Yeah, I think she was going for the Yeah, 360 no scope, I believe, is the scientific term
Ah,
for
right. Well, of course, as as an esports student, that is one of our
yeah,
dictated glossary terms that we do have to know.
exactly.
360 no scope. That is going to be that is an
I
important one
hear
to
there's a
remember.
whole textbook on the 360 no scope.
Oh, well, there's certainly a whole, I don't know whether you'd call it a Bible, gaming Bible, about enough of a textbook as it is. But anyway, back into the game. As things are continuing. Both sides right now just vying for that information. Important that the Legion is staying up towards the later stages of these rounds, because as we said in the last map, it's an operator that gets more important because of that goo mine refresh. The longer it stays alive, the longer it can be effective for. Oh, the peek up comes through. Stelinia nearly gets caught off guard by it, tagged down, and has to retreat off the back of things. And something to note as well is that the attackers only have the one hard breacher in the form of Castle. So if that hard breacher does fall early on, it could be an absolute nightmare for them.
Mm-hmm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe if a Legion were to go the distance, he would generate 8 goo mines total, which is a lot. I do think that they slow down for the last few. I think
Sure.
because they come something like, I want to say 30 seconds at a time. If I could be totally mistaken on that, but I know I believe that the number's 8 and they slow down later on. But
Sure.
like you were saying, the longer that he can be alive,
The more pivotal he's going to be in those late round situations.
exactly.
There, you're right. And bTitans now, they're trying to hold out this defense. They know that Hellside are going to have to commit to things early on. Julie actually in a little bit of a tight situation. She's going to have players facing her from 2 angles at this point. She's going to have to try and find something. She's clearly aware that the players are in those positions right now. She's trying to go for the spray downs, or at least going with that heads up play. But right now it does look like the bTitans defense just being too strong right now. Shnati finds yet another kill, and that leaves just 2 attackers left in the situation. We know they can try and do something as they have before, but with just 10 seconds left, basically no time to get this diffuser down. Just pad your own stats at this point. Try and find some lucky kills if you can. They're not going to be able to do so at this point anyway. And are they both going to get taken down? This could be very messy. Djini looking to try and very much pad her stats as the round ends there in the final. Attacking player not able to be eliminated, but nonetheless, bTitans doing just a really good job there. They didn't lose any players early on. They did a good job of delaying their opponent's pushes and then dealing with them when they came in towards the end of the round.
Yeah, definitely a lot cleaner of a round, a lot more coordination, and it paid off. I mean, it's better to find yourself playing clean early and then not panicking later on, which is, I think, the exact position that they found themselves in. They awarded themselves that by the end of the round.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting to see Rebecca picking up the cav early on. Whether she 6 phases this out or not would be an interesting one. We do know that this bTitan side, they do like the aggressive defensive play, right? So a Caviera could fit in absolutely perfectly with what they're attempting, but it is going to be the Legion picked up nonetheless. And just going to have another look at these operator picks when we do eventually get into the map. I want to have a look at the hard breaching situation here for the side of Hellside. There's not very much hard breaching there at all.
No, they switched the Hibana off for the Ying, which is very interesting. Now they're going in without any hard breach. Now, it's possible that they feel that this site, there's a lot of soft walls on this site. Maybe they feel, hey, there's no way that they can lock everything up. There's got to be something that we can go in with. But still, that's a very that's a bold bold strategy to go in with.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, again, this is that situation like we were talking about, where I don't necessarily think breaching the walls has been their issue. They've brought in a Hibana and a Castle into the first 4 rounds of play, but haven't really utilized them virtually at all. They did use the Castle in that last round to try and create a kill hole into the site, but it didn't work out. They just got eliminated through it. So perhaps they're thinking, okay, the defensive aim of our opponents is just going to be straight up stronger if we're going to try and take those 1v1 initial fights. So let's get the Ying in play. Let's try and get some more disorientation going on amongst the ranks of our opponents, make them more confused as to where they are, keep throwing this utility at them to just disorientate them and make them less likely to hit those shots. And maybe that is what's going to create the situations we need to capitalize on some kills.
Interesting play here as well, up in CCTV. I believe that's not CCTV, but monitors, I believe it's called.
Sure.
Where Rezi's looking over towards now. They actually purposely opened up the hatch for themselves there, so they're obviously planning on using that to their advantage on the defense instead of going and sealing it up.
Well, yeah, this is definitely a key difference I've noticed between bTitans defense as opposed to North Sea Gaming's, is that they're a lot more mobile than they are static. Huge trades coming back and forth right now, though, once again being in favor of this defensive side, with Rezi getting the final one there. Rebecca having a look up these stairs. It's Ganesh to try and counter things out, though. Does find the actual Maestro trapped in here, and he is going to fall as a result. And the trades go back in favor of Hellside this time. Genie left on the defense with Shnati. 2v3 situation, 1 minute and 30 seconds left to work with. So that benefits the attackers, as they have a lot more time to try and find these defensive players, get the information they need, and create a better time of things. But they're already inside the building now. The hard breaching isn't going to be that important. And how much are they going to be able to do that is the question. Those Thatcher grenades potentially being important in the late round, but I would say not as important as having those Ying flashes available.
Yeah, definitely. And the offense still has to be careful here with the Thatcher low. They're going up against two very good guns here. Obviously, that Sledge, I believe, trying to tear things up at the moment. Get the defense thinking here, get them uncomfortable. I think that's the important thing to do. They still got a bit of time. It's still a minute left in the round, which is at the same... good pick by Dashini there.
Yeah, excellent opening pick there from Dashini.
Now all of a sudden that 45 seconds not looking like as much time as it looked like a second ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. Now you're starting to get under pressure. Just 30 seconds left on the clock, and one of your players is quite low HP. You've got to make a push at some point. The question is, where are you going to do it, and how are you going to deal with these defending players? They've gone for the split defense at this point, so it is Shnati holding much more aggressively forward, and then Dajini within the other site right there. So it does look like it's going to be Shnati being contacted early on by Shanice. She peeks the right angle, consolidates the shot as well. That's a hugely important kill. Dajini now looking to just change up her positioning a little. Going to have to find Ganesh early on. They're both going to face her at the same time, actually. Finds the low HP player right now. Doesn't secure too much of a tag, though, onto Shanice in the 1v1, but Dajini once again, cool as a cucumber in these clutch situations, finds another one for the bTitans.
Massive play by Dashini. I'd love to get the name of the chiropractor, because obviously with the amount that she's carrying the team on her back, that's got to be a great load that she's put on. And her chiropractor obviously doing great work to keep her healthy and in shape.
She's in the double digits, gang. 10 kills.
10 kills.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. You know, certainly something our org might want to look into at least. It's just that'd be an expense at this point more than anything.
Do they get benefits on bTitans? Because that might.
I mean, if your players are doing work like that, then maybe it's a requirement. If you're able to just clutch out rounds like that all the time, then maybe the players might be in a stronger negotiating position. But nonetheless, very excellent 2 rounds there, really, where you wouldn't necessarily expecting bTitans to win them, and it was Dajini coming through in clutch, absolutely heroically in both situations, winning the 1v2s. That's going to give the round advantages to her side, 4-2 being the opening scoreline now, as the sides do swap over to things, and we are going to be seeing Hellside this time on the defense.
I think the most important thing to note with Dashini's play so far, which has been impressive, is obviously the gun work's great. She's been landing the shots, but you notice it's what she's doing in between those kills that she puts herself in a position in the first place to get the kills.
Sure.
Smart play. Just at the end push there, she got the first kill, then she backed off, but wasn't, made the smart play of backing off enough, but then turning around again, because she could have just tried to go for the rotate and run away, and she just would have been clipped from behind. But she knew her spacing and her timing, turned back around at the right moment, so she got herself farther away to make herself a smaller target, turned around, and then landed that final kill to secure the round.
Yeah, the positioning, just great point from you there. The positioning as important as her aim in those clutch situations. And she did a great job reacting immediately. As soon as her teammate goes down, she gets the info as to where the 2 players are pushing from, and she immediately repositions, right? She's quick as a flash. She's not holding passively. She's not worried about getting caught in the rotation. She knows she's going to have to move. She's going to pulls it off, does do so, and, comes in clutch, absolutely works out for her. And this time it is going to be Shnati with that FAMAS finding the opening frag, and Rezi again with those 2 openers. The opening kill potential here from bTitans has just been so strong in this map so far. You can see how they've been gaining these advantages for themselves. We knew that as an active defending side that they were probably going to be looking for these aggressive opening picks this time. But what's interesting to see is that there's not really much counterplay being able to be taken out from the side of Hellside at this point, because bTitans are used to playing that aggressive rotated defending style, if you try and do it straight back to them, they're sat in the windows waiting for you.
What I like too is I like seeing teams, at least might be a bit early to speak now because we're still just 6 rounds in.
Sure.
But when a team like bTitans did, they made their mistakes early on. They found out what they shouldn't be doing. They took a deep breath, they forgot about it, and now it seems like they've pulled momentum in their favor because they've gone 3 rounds in a row now. Now we have switched sides, so that can at times negate any momentum you might have. But they turned a match around from what seemed like a teeter-tottering, but still more in Hellside's favor.
Yeah, Ganesh under a lot of pressure right now, though. She does well to get out of that room. I don't know if you saw that aerial angle there, but she was absolutely surrounded by those players. She's under pressure once again. The diffuser reclaimed by the attackers, though. But look at Judy's health right now. She's basically absolutely none. You can't even see it. So Ganesh is ultimately going to a fall. And bTitans taking that round in the end. But, you know, looking very close in the early start of things. And especially the potential was there with that low HP players on the defender. But yeah, sorry to cut you off. It just looked like Ganesh was absolutely surrounded and she had to get out of there. It does well to find one frag, but can't find any more, unfortunately. And now we're starting to see bTitans run away with things.
By all means, the action takes precedence to me rambling on about the little things that I think about or see in the game. So
sure.
By all means, take it away any time that the action's happening.
But yeah, absolutely. Genie on 10 kills, as we've mentioned before. Just an absolute incredible fragging force for our team. And that does seem to me to be what is more significant in this one, right? In the previous map that we saw, it looked like North Sea Gaming won because they had the more drilled defensive side. It looked like their setups were what were winning for them, and they were managing to secure things tactically that way. In this one, it just looks like the bTitans right now, absolutely, it's their individual aim, right? It's these players with the huge individual plays in big moments that are securing these rounds. They're just 2 rounds away from victory now, and we've seen a huge defensive rejig here from the side of Hellside, and they're picking up the dock to try and get up some of these down players, presumably, in the late round situations.
I think this is a situation I'd love to be hearing the comms the bTitans side, because they seem to be they seem to be in sync with each other, which I think is important. It's easy to say that Dashini is killing it here, but it's possible that it's also the play of her teammates and that they're in the right position and allowing her to do what she's doing and giving her the intel that she needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's all about information in those late round situations. I interviewed Zipnix from Counter-Strike, who, a brief introduction to him, he's just a very famous clutch player. He's arguably the best clutch player in the world. And he was saying that he finds it in clutch situations where he likes the fact that it is quiet almost, right? In the mid-round situations, all your team are talking. There's all this communication going back and forth. There's all this shouting, etc. When you're in that 1v2, it's you and the opponents. You get the final call, which is the last bit of information you're going to get, and then it's all up to you and your individual play at that point. And it's that laser focus that I think Tajini has just been able to take complete advantage of in those clutch situations. Looked absolutely cool as a cucumber doing it as well. You know, didn't look like for one moment she was going to struggle in them, you know, surviving on quite a large amount of HP both times, and doing a great job with that positioning as well, which just shows a lot of map awareness as opposed to just the individual aim, right? It's all good and well saying, oh, she's just so good on these flicks and landing these really important headshots. She gets the positioning good, and something that Rezi on her team is great at doing as well by the looks of things. Just finding that first kill. She might not have the most kills on the team, but I'd love to see what percentage of rounds she's had the opening kill in, because it looks like, I think at least 3 rounds for me, she's had the first kill right now, and that can be really important for a side, even just for your mentality.
Yeah, I feel like that's the first name to come up every single round, and not on the side of being killed. Definitely on the side of taking that first kill, which has been important because she's now allowed her team to come in with confidence and aggression for the remainder of each of those rounds.
Yeah, well, Rebecca as well, finding the follow-up frag. Once again, they're just real snowball effect looks to be going on right now for the side of bTitans. They're just really taking over these rounds very early on. Twitch crosshair, no, Thermite's crosshair, sorry, not going to be quite fallen into at the moment. It is going to be Schnatty on that Twitch. One of my favorite personal operators. I just prefer the operators with a DMR because you can get very lucky with one left-click headshot, and that's enough to get a kill in those rounds. But Shanice getting the return, but these trade frags just too powerful right now from the side of bTitans. Judy trading things out. 2v4 situation. Surely Hellside, can they do anything this round? I really don't think so. The smoke's still available, so they can force some time pressure at least, but it should be too difficult for them to try and win this one.
Yeah, I mean, when you're down to 2 players and you're smoke with a minute left to go. You definitely... Oh, big kill there by Bandit. Oh.
Important plays going back and forth right now, and Shanice doing a great job staying alive early on, but she is going to fall towards those latter stages, right? Those pushes did come in. He was getting a little bit chaotic there. Basically, that's the problem. That's why, as a defender, you do not want to lose those players early on, right? Because if you're in that situation, even... I mean, just understand the concept of it's obviously going to be easier when you're the team that has 4 players fighting the team that has 2 players, right? Shanice now, again, for the side of Hellside, to point out, on 10 frags herself, so putting in a lot of work there to no assists. But anyway, my point there is that, let's say you're in that situation towards the end of that round, right? And it is the 2v3 anyway, just isolated on the site. So there are 3 people attacking your site and you're the 2 defenders, but you still have 2 teammates left alive. Even if they're not contributing to that fight, what they're doing is making sure other angles are secure for you, right? You're not going to be flanked from certain positions. A utility isn't going to catch you off guard from here, and you will theoretically have space to move into after you get the opening kills to reposition and try and find more. What's really great with these attackers finding the opening kills is that they're getting them early on. They're forcing that man advantage away from the defenders. The defenders do not have that safety net anymore in terms of the safe rotation and the map control. They're isolated into more tighter and tighter corners. Eventually, they can just be flanked and wrap around on, and the rest is history, as we're seeing with this 6-2 leading scoreline.
Really interesting play by Dashini here. The 6 pick going from Thermite to Hibana. One hard breacher to the next. Like maybe that's just more about comfortability. At the last moment, you think, you know what? I like Hibana's gun maybe a bit more. Let's go with Hibana.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps, and as well, you'd be thinking that if you're playing like the ultimate level of 4D chess right now, what I'd be thinking is, okay, well, Hellside were using the Thatcher on their attack to break into the walls. Not the Thatcher, sorry, the Thermite on their attack to break holes in the walls and try and find those kill holes. So what I'm going to do is pick the Thermite in the early stages, so they think, oh, they're just going for the default Thermite pick, you know, as we've been doing basically in our strategies, and then swap it out for the Hibana later on, and just throw that little extra bit of variance in. Because as we were seeing before, when it was Hellside creating those kill holes with the Thermite charges, the defensive players were left isolated, and quite often they were losing out in those rounds as a result. And what could potentially happen now is that they are going to be committing more players to angles that they think a Thermite might try and capitalize on, and that could leave them open to more crucial flanks. But this time, it is the side of Hellside that do find that opening kill. Quite a while ago onto Resi. She's not allowed to get too openly aggressive and brazen this time, but still 2 minutes, 10 seconds left on the clock. Still all to play for here for the attackers, and we certainly know they have at least the aim potential to be able to try and find another refrag here.
Mm-hmm. What has been interesting, you'll notice that so far in these 2 offensive rounds for bTitans, Dashini actually hasn't gotten a kill yet. She was at 10k, 10 frags by the end of their defensive run, and now that they're on the offense, it's been the rest of the team really picking it up.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's very important to see as well as an individual player, because in terms of the psychology of a carry player, right? If you are a carry player on the side, you obviously have that extra responsibility of, you know, there is some pressure on you to make those plays and win those clutch situations, right? But if it's you making those plays and winning those rounds and your team isn't backing you up, that then gives you that sense more of, I have to get more aggressive here. I have to go for the more risky plays, get 3 kills instead of 2, get 4 kills instead of 3, right? And make sure I'm the one winning these rounds. When your team start refragging, you don't need to get that aggressive. You're not going to unnecessarily throw your life away over committing to those situations, and it just has that extra net there of support to try and back things up. But as I said, the refrag potential was certainly available from the side of bTitans. They have found it in the 4v4 situation now, hunting around for some more kills. Are they going to be able to find anything early on though? That's the question.
Yeah, definitely. And to further that point, Hibana going with a breach charge here on the castle window.
Spotting out one player there sat in within the site, so that is the Mozzie going to be redeploying that C4. But Dashini, just with that heads-up play, you can tell that she's got a lot of awareness here, right? She knows what's coming in. This Mozzie utility is being wrecked by this utility at the moment. He's just not in a great position of things, but somehow manages to escape the altercation with his life for now. And then ultimately, Dashini just waiting for the flank there to come in. Shnatty finds that kill and looks to get the diffuser down. 3v4 situation now. We're going to be left in the post plant, as I assume the denial won't be able to come through here. But they are in close angles here. They're going to be looking to try and pressure the situation aggressively. Rebecca, though, begins to shut out this defense. 2v4 now in favor of the side of bTitans, and Hellside under quite a lot of pressure. The Doc isn't even on the in the right area to try and deal with some of these players. He's going to fall. The operator, that is, nice and early on, and it leaves Stelinia in the 1v4. She can't do anything, and bTitans, absolutely incredibly strong showing from them. 7-2 being the ending scoreline of this map, and while it looked very competitive early on, bTitans quickly managed to gain that momentum thanks to some great clutches from Djini and snowballed through that game.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a good dual effort between Djini and her team. Djini to take that momentum, give it to her team, but then her team to really, do her justice and take that momentum and run with it. Because look at that, by the end there, 11-8, 7-7-7.
Yeah, everybody putting their work in, right?
It wasn't that same Djini game of her carrying the rest of the team on her back. Really, effort by committee there to really take the rest of that match, and they just ran away with it at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. After those clutches come in, I think you can almost see the fire then be ignited in the side of bTitans' bellies, right? You can see the first clutch comes in, and you think, okay, that's pretty lucky, right? They shouldn't have won that round, but their opponents still have the advantage. They look very much in control of this offensive side of things. And then, note, Djini, she's doing it again. She's pulling in clutch after clutch. Then you start seeing the rest of the team start to wake up. Rezi getting those aggressive frags on the defensive side of things as well, and Schnatty as well, just chiming in every now and then, having some high impact plays. But, there wasn't, nothing to take away there from the side of Hellside. Some very important individual plays and individual fraggers as well for their side, but ultimately came down to the fact that bTitans carry had a better support network available. The rest of the players doing some work, whereas I can't remember quite who it was for Hellside. You might need to help me out on this. Who was it that got the 10 frags for Hellside there?
That would have been Shanice. Yeah,
Shanice. Yeah. So she does a great job at finding those 10 frags, but just doesn't have the support network available for her. Just as much as Djini did. But yeah, overall for me, I think for MVP potential, at least from my perspective, it's got to be Djini. She quieted down a little bit towards the later stages of the map, but still hugely impactful. I would argue the most impactful player on the server, and congratulations to her and her team for taking that victory.
Yeah, definitely. But there is a reason why they track a stat like opening kills, and I think you do have to give credit to Rezi there for that, because same way we talk about, Djini doing what she does to give momentum to her team so her team can use that. Rezi coming in with those opening kills allows her team to then go up with an advantage of 5 operators to 4 and go ahead with that advantage for the rest of the round. But overall, just an incredible match, honestly. I don't think, even though it was 7-2, I don't think Hellside, I think bTitans just played better. I don't think that was an issue of Hellside not playing well.
Sure.
They just went up against a team that found their rhythm, and they just went with it, and there was no looking back at that point, because they finished that off with 6 rounds in a row. They were down 2-1, came back to win, then 7-2. Very, very tight matches.
Yeah, I would definitely say that when the sides did switch over, it did look like Hellside didn't really have the opportunity to reset. It looked like once bTitans started gaining that momentum, Hellside just increasingly being crushed by that giant snowball inevitably coming their way, and weren't able to switch things up on the defense. I think that if they are going to go away and drill on something, it's I think it was them on the defense in the second iteration. Yeah, so it is those defensive plays for me. They did look a little bit more messy. They weren't able to recover from losing those players early on. But again, you live to improve, right? Especially when you're a team in this environment. So they're going to be obviously VOD reviewing, presumably, and talking about those things themselves. But either way, commendations to both teams from my book, but excellent job from bTitans to capitalize on some momentum there.
Definitely. So that was a great match. Stick around. We're going to go to a 5-minute break here, but we have a great match coming up as well. If you're into seeing a little more bloodshed, that's probably what you're going to get. It's going to be the #1 Team Queen, the undefeated team, going up against the 6th ranked team, Titanium Cloud Esports. Stick around. We'll be back in just a moment with that match.